Hello everybody and welcome along to a very snowy Five Sisters Zoo today. We're back in front of our European bear enclosure just now, our European brown bear enclosure. Esso is nicely tucked up in one of her dens in there. She's still in torpor. She's staying nice and warm today. There's a lot of snow on the ground. It is particularly cold. Thank you so much for choosing to join us in our final online lesson. So unfortunately, this is our final lesson. We really hope that you have been enjoying tuning in on a Tuesday and a Thursday. And I hope that this final part is just as useful as everything running up to this point. So today we are going to be discussing the roles within a zoo. Back on Tuesday we spoke about the role of a zoo, we mentioned conservation, we mentioned how they're important for education, for animal welfare. Today we're going to be talking about the work that staff within a zoo will get up to in order to make those things happen. And I think this particular lesson will be of use, well, to everybody hopefully, but especially to those that maybe want to go on to pursue a career in the world of zoos or wildlife conservation at some point later on in their life. Before we delve into the roles within a zoo, I want to have a chat about something we mentioned at the end of Tuesday's lesson. The beaver project that we're now involved with here at Five Sisters Zoo. I mentioned that we became involved with that project at the end of 2019. And that project involves moving beavers from Scotland, from where beavers are very well established at this moment in time, down to official projects in England, where they're being released into those official projects, and they stop off here at Five Sisters Zoo on their way south for health screening. So I briefly mentioned that at the end of Tuesday's video, and in a minute or two we're going to hear from from an expert in that field, someone that works very closely with Five Sisters on that project, and she's going to be telling you guys a few more kind of specifics about that project in a few seconds. But before we cut to that, I just want to tell you a little bit about why this project is something that is very exciting for us to be involved with. Beavers were hunted to extinction here in Britain back in the 16th century. And it was only in 2009 that they were officially reintroduced back into the wilds of Scotland. Beavers are what we call a keystone species. They're ecosystem engineers. They build dams. I'm sure many of you will know about that. They build dams. They'll build them in streams and round lakes and ponds and rivers, and they create wetland habitats. And those wetlands then become home to numerous plant and animal species. So beavers create more habitat diversity, and that habitat diversity in turn boosts levels of biodiversity. So they are what we call ecosystem engineers, keystone species, really helpful for boosting biodiversity levels. And so it was decided in 2009 that they would be reintroduced into Scotland after an absence of a few hundred years in order to do that. And it's only more recent that these official projects have started down in England, and beavers from the well-established populations up in Scotland are now being moved down to some of those official kind of projects, those official areas down in England. And we are really excited to help with that project. The beavers come here for a very short stay for their health screening, so our veterinary team obviously make sure that those health screenings take place. And our zookeepers also make sure that the needs of those beavers are met during their very short stay. So now I am delighted to introduce Roisin, who is basically the person that kind of coordinates this project alongside Five Sisters Zoo, who's going to tell you a little bit more about what she does and about what goes on in that beaver project.
Hi, I'm Dr. Roisin Campbell-Palmer, and I work with Five Sisters Zoo on the beaver project. What we aim to do is to relocate beavers from conflict areas in Scotland where licences have been issued that have ordered their removal because they're causing a significant impact on farmland, for example. So we set traps, we work with the landowner, they come into the zoo here where they do their health screening, and then the long-term goal of the project is to see the animals released and restored in other parts of Britain where their impacts can do a lot of good. And there's lots of positive engagement with beaver restoration.
So that beaver project is absolutely fantastic. It's fascinating, and we are delighted to be able to say that that is one of the conservation projects that we support here at Five Sisters Zoo. Now, for the rest of today's lesson, we are going to focus on the roles within a zoo. We're going to speak about the different kinds of jobs that the staff members here will get up to, the roles that they play here at Five Sisters Zoo. And you'll probably find that the roles that we have here are also found in most zoos across the country and across the world. Now, when you think zoo job, the first thing that will probably spring to a lot of people's minds is zookeeper. And of course, we do have zookeepers here at Five Sisters. We have a fantastic keeping team, and one of our keepers, Angela, is going to be telling you a little bit more about what she does towards the end of this lesson today. But we also have our education team, our front of house team. We have our events planners, our administrators. We have chefs that make sure our visitors are fed when they come onto site. And we're not going to be able to cover every single role today, but it is worth thinking about. There are so many roles within zoo settings that help things move along. Today we're going to focus a little bit more on the kind of animal side of things. So we're going to have a chat about zookeeping, we'll have a chat about zoo education, and we're also going to hear from our animal registrar, Veselina, in a few minutes' time as well. Now, I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about what a zoo educator does here at Five Sisters Zoo. And I'll tell you a bit about my role and about how I came to be in this role as well. So, I'm the head of education right now. So it is my job, and the job of anybody else working on the education team here at Five Sisters, to ensure that we continue to engage with visitors, and we engage with audiences online at the moment as well. Throughout the pandemic, our job has changed quite a bit. We've had to start engaging with people online instead of in person. We carry out different talks. We deliver talks throughout the zoo on a daily basis. Again, we've been doing that online over the past few months. We work with schools and universities and colleges to make sure that they can come in and visit and they can take part in educational sessions. Again, we organise them right now online for them. Zoo education is incredibly important. Zoos are amazing places. It is brilliant coming along and seeing animals, of course it is, but zoos are primarily there to educate people. And we need to make sure that we have a fully functioning education department and a fully functioning education programme so that our visitors, our audience, go away and they can think a little bit more in depth about conservation issues facing the wildlife housed here at Five Sisters out in native habitats elsewhere in the world. It is so important that they take home some of those messages, and it is our education team that are responsible for delivering them. Now, I became obsessed with all things zoos and animals when I was around 7 years old. I absolutely loved reptiles, especially things like snakes, and I really wanted to work with crocodiles at some point when I was older as well. And as soon as I got the opportunity, I started volunteering. And that is something I would strongly urge anybody out there that is thinking about a career in zoos. At some point, you're probably going to have to volunteer. So as soon as you turn 16, start looking for different voluntary options. That could be in a zoo such as ourselves here. We quite often, unfortunately not right this second because of everything that's going on, but in normal circumstances, we work with volunteers. Other zoos across the country also take volunteers on. Different animal shelters, veterinary practices. Get volunteering as soon as you possibly can. Get some experience behind you. That's what I did. And I actually started volunteering right here at Five Sisters Zoo. I volunteered for a number of years, and then I decided I wanted to go off to university and study animal biology, which was an amazing thing to be able to do. And while I was doing that, I was lucky enough to be given the opportunity to become a part-time zookeeper here, again, at Five Sisters Zoo. Now, when I finished my animal biology degree, I went down a slightly different route. I went out into the world of field work, and I was based elsewhere in the world. I wasn't here in the UK, I was based out in West Africa. So I was carrying out field work over there in West Africa in some of the rainforests over there. And after about, well, almost a year of that work, I moved back across to Scotland, and I was very lucky. Five Sisters Zoo were looking for an education officer. Now, zoo education was something I'd been a little bit involved in as a keeper, but I was lucky enough to be offered that position. I came along and I started working with the education team, and I absolutely loved it. I found my calling. That was definitely what I wanted to continue doing. Now, I've since moved away again. I went away off and I got my master's degree. Again, I was based out in the forests of West Africa, looking at primate species that time, which was fantastic. And I came back to Scotland with a research master's, which was brilliant. And that was when I started heading up the education team here at Five Sisters Zoo. So I have been incredibly lucky to have a fantastic relationship with Five Sisters. But you guys at home should know that these roles are available. It's not impossible to get into the world of zoo work. It can be quite challenging at times, but make sure you get out there as soon as you possibly can. Get volunteering. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have had the fantastic relationship that I have with this place today. So make sure as soon as you possibly can, get out there, get volunteering, and believe that you can pursue a career in the world of zookeeping, zoo education, wildlife conservation, whatever it is that you want to do. It is possible even when it feels like it's not, because it certainly can feel incredibly tough sometimes. It's a very tough industry to get into, and some of the jobs in that industry are very, very, very tough jobs that you need a lot of motivation to carry out as well. So, we're going to hear now from one of my colleagues, Veselina, who's going to tell you a little bit about her role here at Five Sisters Zoo. She is the animal registrar, and that's possibly not a role many of you will have heard of before. It's something that's slightly more behind the scenes, but it is absolutely critical that role is carried out, and she has a huge responsibility. So we're going to hear from Lena now about what she does here at Five Sisters Zoo.
Hello everyone. My name is Lina and I'm the animal registrar here at Five Sisters Zoo. Today I will briefly introduce you to my work. So my main responsibility is to keep up-to-date records for all of our animals here at the zoo. And that's quite important because this allows us to continuously monitor the well-being and behavior of each individual animal. So we keep both paper and electronic record for every animal, from cockroaches to lions and snow leopards. For the electronic record, we use the Logical Information Management Software, or ZIMS, as you can see here on the screen. And this software is specifically developed for zoos and aquariums, and it's used from such facilities from all over the world. As our head keeper Gemma mentioned you in our previous video, our keepers monitor the behavior of the animals under their care on day-to-day basis. So at the end of each day, the keepers fill reports for everything which happened during the day. How the animal behaved, whether they had a good appetite, or how they reacted on particular enrichment. So my job is to input all this information into ZIMS, together with all veterinary reports, veterinary prescriptions, or information from any health check which has been conducted, or lab results if that's been requested. So for each animal I create like a personal profile, which profile also includes information about the origin of this animal, about its parents or siblings, and whether this animal is part of any conservation program. That way, we can easily have access to detailed information about particular animal almost instantly. So, ZIMS is used by more than 1,000 zoos in the world. And it is a massive, massive database which includes millions of individual animals. Having this massive database helps in one of the main purposes of zoos, conservation. Adam briefly explained to you about our male fossa Zazu, and how he is part of the international breeding program for fossas. Through ZIMS, all information about Zazu, about his behavior, his health, or day-to-day life, is easily accessible for the people who are responsible for this breeding program. And this information helps them to make an informed decision whether Zazu is a good match for another fossa somewhere in the world. So that these two animals at some point can breed successfully and eventually give birth to a healthy progeny and maybe released into the wild. So as you can see, although I don't really work directly with the animals, I know quite a lot about their day-to-day life, and I can say that I know many of them quite well. I hope you enjoyed learning about my responsibilities in Five Sisters Zoo, and now you know a bit more what a registrar does in a zoo. Thank you.
So hopefully that gives you some insight into a role many of you at home might have never heard of before. So animal registrars are very important, and Lena does a fantastic job for us here at Five Sisters Zoo. Now, when many of you think of zoos and you think of a career in a zoo, you might think of zookeepers. I'm sure if you've ever been along to Five Sisters, you'll have seen our fantastic keepers out and about during your visit at some point. Now, the zookeeping team in any zoo is absolutely vital. Yeah? The animals that we have here, they need to be cared for. And our zookeepers are some of the most committed people here at Five Sisters, because they come in every single day to make sure that all of the animal welfare needs are being met. Now, while zookeeping might seem like the dream job for many of you sitting at home, it is worth considering just how difficult it can sometimes be. If you have a little look around just now, it is absolutely freezing today. It's very snowy, but our keepers are still in, making sure animals are fed, animals are given fresh water, they're cleaned, their behaviours being assessed, and they are providing enrichment as well. And you'll remember we spoke to Gemma back on Tuesday, and she told you a little bit about the day in the life of a zookeeper. And in a couple of minutes' time, we're going to hear from another keeper, Angela, who's going to tell you a little bit about what she gets up to here at Five Sisters. We have 7 different animal sections here at the zoo. That includes the carnivore section. You've already met the head carnivore keeper back in some of our earlier lessons. We met Gary. He is in almost every single day, making sure that the needs of the carnivores on the carnivore section are met. Then we also have sections like our primate section, bird section, we have our education section, castle section, we have our farm section as well. Now, zookeeping is very, very tough. It's very competitive as well. It's very difficult to get into a role zookeeping, and that's why it's so important to have experience behind you. So I mentioned when I was telling you a little bit about what I did before becoming head of education here, I told you that I volunteered. And that's why volunteering, getting out there and getting some experience behind you is super important. It's definitely something that is worth thinking about when you turn 16 and you are allowed to volunteer in, many different places that offer volunteering opportunities. Get out there, get volunteering. It's also worth remembering just how difficult the job can be as well when you start doing it. It takes a very, very, very committed person to become a zookeeper, because you're out in all weathers making sure that animal welfare needs are met all year as well. So our keepers are even in on Christmas Day and on New Year's Day as well. And to tell you a little bit more about what she does here at Five Sisters, we're now going to hear from one of our bird keepers, Angela.
Hi, my name's Angela and I'm one of the bird keepers here at Five Sisters Zoo. Today I'm joined by Harley, who you might recognise from the Lost Kingdom. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and why I got into the job and my job role here. So I started about 4 years ago. Started as a volunteer, moved into internship and got a full-time job from there. My job role is to go around, make sure all the animals are safe and healthy, get them fed in the morning, make sure they've got water, give them enrichment throughout the day, make up diets, give them different sorts of health care. The reason why I got into working with animals was because they are an absolute passion of mine, especially birds. Grew up alongside birds, always loved them. So getting to do this is just absolutely my dream job. So any advice I would give to anyone that was wanting to get into this is make sure that you definitely want to do it. I know that sounds a bit silly, but it is a very, very demanding job. But yes, it is very much worth it.
So to finish off our final online lesson, guys, we've come back down to our very snowy looking snow leopard enclosure that is just behind me there just now. You'll remember 4 weeks ago in our very first lesson, our habitats and adaptations lesson, part 1, we visited our snow leopards and we had a bit of a chat about Nella and Aruna, the 2 females that live just over there. Now, this is our last video, and before we go, I would just like to say to you guys, thank you so much for choosing to tune in and for watching every Tuesday and Thursday, and for completing the activities as well. Please keep sending over your activities, your posters, your drawings. We've absolutely loved seeing them, and all of the talks as well that we've had sent across to us too. We are more than happy to arrange personalised sessions as well for teachers, for their classes, and also for any parents that have kids that they're homeschooling at home right now. We're more than happy to arrange sessions with our education team here at Five Sisters. If you want to cover a topic in a little bit more depth, if you want us to cover a topic that we've not even touched on in our online sessions, please contact us. It's not very expensive at all, and we would be delighted to work with you to create a fantastic session for your learners at home or in your school. Please just send an email across to adam@fivesisterszoo.co.uk and we will get that organised for you. I just want to say, guys, please stay safe. Thank you so much for choosing to tune in once again. We are absolutely delighted with the way these things have gone, and hopefully we'll see all of you right back here at Five Sisters Zoo as soon as we can. Thank you and goodbye.